Enter at your own risk. Private property. You must read this sign before entering. We are not responsible for your safety. We are not responsible for your physical, mental, or emotional well-being.
Bishop's Castle is under construction. Proceed past this point with extreme caution. You must keep children and pets under control at all times.
We reserve our right to freedom of speech and expression. You might experience foul language. You might experience strongly expressive behavior. We reserve our right to refuse entry to anyone at any time.
If at any time the management of this property feels that you do not agree with or have not read this sign, you will be asked to leave.
If you do not agree with any of these conditions, do not enter. If you do not agree, you are trespassing. Enter at your own risk.
It's going to take a while for this oxygen to work. Today is the first day. So I feel good about that.
When Jim Bishop was young, he was growing up in Pueblo, Colorado, and he and his dad, he saw a parcel of land, 2.5 acres. The family wanted to escape from Pueblo in the summertime and have a sort of mountain retreat.
I made a down payment of $250. Purchase price of $500. It was me and my dad together, and that's how it got going.
And in 1969, he started building a one-room rock cottage, which is like almost directly under us. It was square and it had arched windows in it, and then they got a water tank, and when the rock started going around the tank, it looked like a tower, and people said it looked like a castle. And in June of 1973, my dad started digging another hole out in front of the cottage, and my grandpa's like, "What are you doing now?" And he's like, "People want a castle. I'm gonna build them a castle."
So Custer County is zoned differently than any other county in Colorado. So it is a land use county, and we don't give building permits, we give zoning permits. The state of Colorado told the counties that they had to enact some type of zoning in 1972. And we're zoned for less density. So what that means is we don't care if you have 80 acres, you only get one dwelling.
They kept trying to get me to get a permit so they could control me, because they think they own everybody.
So when Jim Bishop started building this castle in the late 60s, it was pre-zoning. The county has acknowledged this. There were really no rules. You could do whatever you wanted. And so I think the county has been in a weird place where a lot of the building would never be up to code now, but they sort of started building before a lot of these rules came into place, and so I think they're essentially grandfathered into this process. And when they've asked Jim to comply with various things, a lot of times he didn't really want to do it.
When things would really get going, the bigger I made it, the less. Because I was actually doing something with no zoning permit and no insurance, and they don't want people to have nothing free.
Custer County, one of our zoning regulations is that your building must be 25 foot or less from the natural grade of the ground.
The zoning was a situation, I don't remember what year it was. He was getting ready to start working on this tower out here. They come in and put a sign on the property that it had to be zoned after this point, and nothing could be built over 25 foot tall. He decided that tower was going to 250 just to spite them. He was going to add a 0 to their 25 foot. And then he went with some constitutional law to a zoning committee meeting in Custer County, presented them with a document from the Constitution called the Latches Document, which basically gives power to the grandfather clause, that if you've been doing something for 7 years, they've failed to regulate you and you haven't hurt anybody, you've proven they have no valid case to regulate you. Every aspect of local government in one way or another has put a little effort into stopping him from doing what he wants to do because he doesn't ask for permission.
Mr. Bishop had done a rave years ago in 1998.
There was a whole bunch of different partying going on here for a while. There was a heavy metal fest that lasted all weekend, one weekend. There were a couple dozen different rave cultures. There were real raves, there were wannabe raves.
I think that the raves that they held were detrimental to the community around. They had too big of a draw, and there were a lot of issues, from what I understand, with the actions of a lot of the people that showed up for the raves.
Yeah, so they, I think, ultimately stopped because the county got the courts to step in. They went to the court to get an injunction so that the parties would have to stop.
Well, at that point, they didn't have any choice but to try to stop it all because there could still be a rave here today. The injunction is against an unlicensed party. They could go and apply for a permit if they get my permission, but I'm not giving the permission for that shit here anymore. It was bad news, right? And it didn't fit the tourism.
A lot of behavior that was just not very good for the county and the residents of the county.
After the courts stepped in and made sure that the bishops couldn't throw any more of these 3-day raves, a group decided to have a wedding at the castle and used the wedding, in Dan Bishop's words, as a way to get around that court injunction so that they could throw one of their massive parties. So what they thought was a wedding turned into a rave, and Jim and Dan show up with guns to try and get them off the property. The people wouldn't get off the property. This is according to Dan Bishop.
I'm putting an end to the party right now. I grabbed my shotgun, a box of shells, and came out because they wouldn't listen to me, and I made enough freaking noise that all of a sudden there was nobody here. They were all gone. Well, what I didn't know is they drove down to Lake Isabel, called the Custer County Sheriff, and sat around with the Custer County Sheriff and came up with this story about how we had lined them up against the castle and started shooting at them like firing order, like blowing rocks off the castle. The next thing you know, SWAT team is here. Middle of the night, they're hauling me out of here, they're hauling him out of here, and 2.5 years later, this one lawyer came in here and said, I'll represent you for free. And he turned out to be an ass-kicking lawyer. He got it all thrown out except for the one case of reckless endangerment that I didn't, took 30 days in jail. What the hell, all right? The testament to to that right there is there was a fan of the castle that had $100,000 cash because there was $50,000 on him and $50,000 on me, and this guy came and put cash on the table to get us out of jail. Not many people can say that a stranger would do that for him, right? But it happened for us because of what's here, because of what my dad has done. This would not work if it wasn't good. If it wasn't good for people. That's why the raves aren't happening here anymore. They weren't good for the place, and they don't happen anymore.
He's a character. I mean, anybody who's met Jim Bishop knows, he can be a little out there in terms of his views and perspective, and he's not a shy person by any means. He will tell you exactly what he thinks, and what he thinks is usually pretty out there.
There's a lot of times that we'll get complaints that maybe Mr. Bishop said something to him while they were visiting the castle or something, but that's none of our business.
I have heard of times when, he has been very strong in his opinion.
There's no just cause to say the country. It's an offshore bankrupt corporation. Wise up, sheeple. Wise up now.
That means World War III, world currency won't buy nothing. It'll be a gold-backed currency of the New World Order.
Me and God are a team here. I'm newsworthy. I built all of this. George Bush ain't newsworthy. George Bush didn't build no real castle with his hands. This is the only real castle left in the world. I'm just sieging, winning all the battles. They tried to put me in jail for 37 years on false charges just because the county commissioners couldn't control it with zoning. Over a drunken wedding party. Put me in jail with a $50,000 cash only. That's a violation from them at 8.
He's been really easy to deal with in his old age, and I didn't expect him to. When I look around at everything he's done, and I'm thinking about what it's going to be like to take care of him, I'm like, God, he's probably going to be a real pain in the ass, and I'm not going to be able to talk him into this, and he ain't going to want to do that. And like he said 6 months ago when the doctor asked him, are you on oxygen at home? He's like, no, and if I ever get on oxygen at home, you could just kill me. I don't want to live like that. He's on oxygen today, and there's no talk of not wanting to do it. There's no fight about it, which is absolutely amazing and has surprised the heck out of me, but I'm not going to complain about it.
Do the plan of care, see if we can get you some tanks too. Tristan?
It is a very unique location, I guess. I guess not everybody has a castle that in their county, so it is very unique. It has a big draw from a lot of places for tourism and things of that nature.
If anybody's making money up here, it's the county for all the taxes that are getting spent in the gift shops and the restaurants, and there's a flow of people through here that wouldn't be happening without this.
It's a great tourist attraction. I think that anyone who's ever done any type of construction looks at it and thinks, wow, where did you get your energy to do something like this?
I think Bishop Castle is inherently a kind of amazing creation, and it takes an unbelievable amount of dedication and perseverance and willpower. It's very easy to not do this. Millions of people every day don't build castles in the middle of nowhere. And, Jim Bishop has made it his life's work. This has been his day-to-day for a very long time.
It's all good. Even the bad was good. Because I say it was a learning experience.
I believe that my dad was riding his bicycle through here and it said, hey, you're building me. He didn't know it, right? The castle was more than just him. It wouldn't have existed without him, but there's more to it than just him. I believe that it'll always be here past me and past everybody that ever comes along, because it's something more than one man or one family or one generation.